Morning, everybody. The President and Principal of Indian School Gubra, dear teachers, parents, grandparents, and dear children. Oh, there they are. A very happy Independence Day to everybody. It's a privilege for me to be here at the Indian School Gubra on this occasion. I, in fact, look forward to the opportunity of going to one of the Indian schools on our national days, Independence Day and Republic Day. Because, it's a special feeling to watch the next generation of India celebrating India's independence and celebrating India's journey. So very happy today that we are at Indian School Gubra for this. India today is 76 years old, or shall we say it's 76 years young. Because 76 years is a long time in a person's life. But 76 years is but a blip in the sands of time, especially when you are talking about a culture and a civilization that is as old as time itself. It's a short time, but a momentous journey. It is, like in the lives of our children, it's our nation's happy birthday. But it is also a day of remembrance, because today, when we celebrate our Independence Day, we also remember. In fact, that is the very purpose of celebrating Independence Day. We remember the sacrifices of our freedom fighters, the countless millions, some of them known, countless others unnamed, who gave up their todays for our tomorrow. We remember the countless number of Indians who made India after independence. Our farmers, our workers, our teachers, our soldiers, our scientists, our leaders. They have made this country into what it is today. We remember also the scholars and thinkers who have taught us to have the courage in our hearts to look to the future, but at the same time to hold on to our past, to our traditions. So when the tricolor flutters outside with pride on Independence Day, it is a reminder. It is a reminder that today, whatever we are, we stand on the shoulders of these giants, and that we owe it to the memory of these, or of our ancestors, of those who have gone before. We owe it to their memory to continuously work so that the future of India is better than its past. The future of India is more glorious than the present. 76 years, as I said, is a short time, but a great journey. And we have indeed come a long way. 1947, when we were born, there were many. And some, like Winston Churchill, said it in very colorful words. We don't have to repeat those words. But there were many like him who believed that this was a basket case. That a country as large, as uneducated, illiterate, poor, ungovernable, they called it. They said there is no way. It's just an experiment, it will fizzle out. But we have not just survived, we have thrived. We are today not just the most populous country in the world, we are, more importantly, the world's largest democracy. And today, India is the envy of the world. Because what other people think are obvious, but they cannot do it. We do peaceful transfers of powers every 5 years. Democracy is ingrained in every Indian citizen, whether he's a rickshaw puller or an industrialist. Today, we are becoming the model of how to govern a large country. Look at the journey we have traveled. From one of the poorest and the most backward countries when we were born. And there is no harm in acknowledging that. Today we are, the 5th largest economy in the world. And give or take a few years, we are well on our way to becoming the 3rd largest. Again, a remarkable turnaround. Those who have studied this will remember 1956, when India was forced to import wheat from United States under an infamous scheme that was called the PL 480. Difficult times. Today, India is the largest producer of wheat in the world. We are the largest exporter of rice in the world, including to this country. And you name it, milk, nuts, fruits and vegetables. Today, that India which could not produce enough wheat to feed its people is today the food basket. In fact, they say if there is an extreme weather event in India, the world will go hungry. Or from 1963, when our first rocket was carried to the Tumba rocket launch pad on a bicycle. You've seen this remarkable photograph, right? And today, Chandrayaan-3 is orbiting the moon as we speak, and our lander Vikram will, with the collective good wishes of all of us, will soon be making a glorious landing on and send pictures of Chanda Mama back to us. So on Independence Day, clearly there is so much we can talk about, especially for the benefit of our children. There are so many stories, so many attributes. It will take several days to go through that. But I thought today, since I'm speaking in a school, I will talk about people. Because ultimately it is people who make a country what it is. And I fundamentally believe that if today India has done so much that we talked about, it is because of what Indian people are. And I'm not saying we are more intelligent than other people, maybe we are. But that's not the point. The point is there is something else about Indian people that makes them succeed, that makes them do well. And I'm not talking about the bigger names like Gandhis and Nehrus that we all know. I want to talk to our children and give 3 examples. 3 names that hopefully 2 of them you would have heard of. One, in fact, I was also not familiar. I read about this person in the newspapers about 3 weeks ago. But I thought it's a very relevant example for this particular venue, Indian School Gubra. And I'm going to talk about the 3 people, all 3 of them are from the IT industry. Now again, that's purely coincidental. I can take any field of activity and I can give you 3 names, equally important, equally big contributions. So when we talk about the information technology industry, we of course know about the Satya Nadellas, and Sundar Pichais, and Shantanu Mukherjees. And that, by the way, itself is a huge story. How come it is that the world's top companies are all led by Indians? It's not a coincidence. There's something to this story that tells you about the country. But of course, that story is well told. These names are well known. As I said, I want to talk about names that are relatively lesser known, if not unknown. So when we talk about the IT industry in India, the father of IT industry in India was a person called Fakir Chand Kohli, better known as FC Kohli. I would encourage children to read up about him. He was the first CEO of Tata Consultancy Services. He was not a software engineer. He was not an IT engineer. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he was a chemical engineer who grew up in Tata's and then reached Tata Consultancy Services. But this is the person who transformed the IT industry and literally invented the IT services industry, what India was later known for. So after TCS, you had the Wipros and the Infosys, and the rest is history. Right? Today, that model, the world talks about this model, the IT services model. It was thanks to the invention or thanks to the genius vision of this one visionary, the father of Indian IT industry, Fakir Chand Kohli. The second equally important person that I'll bet 70% of this audience would not have heard of, but a very important person. This young man was born in Moga in Punjab, did his graduation from Agra University. These are people, I'm not talking about the IITs and IIMs. That story is well known. These are people of the soil. He grew up in Punjab, moved on to the UK, then to the US, and this gentleman is known as the father of fiber optics. In fact, the word fiber optics itself was coined by him. There was no such thing as that. He was not given a Nobel Prize. I don't know why. But if you read up about him, he is genuinely seen as one of the visionaries who again literally invented a whole new industry. So today you send a message, send pictures of your dog to your friends, or Independence Day photographs. All this is happening on fiber optic cables. And the credit of that industry, of that revolution, goes to this man from Punjab. He was a Sardar, by the way. Again, we don't associate certain ethnicities with information technology, but that's how diverse India is, right? The third example, which I thought is very topical, and incidentally, this example has a connection with Oman. So I was reading an article in the Financial Times, I think this must be late July. The title of the article is called The Transformers. And these are not the Japanese robots. The Transformers is the name of a team in Google. A group of 8 young scientists who in 2017 wrote a paper which was called All You Need Is Attention. And this paper is apparently, and I'm not an expert on this, but this paper is apparently where the revolution of next generation artificial intelligence, what is called generative AI, which you and I better known as ChatGPT. The genesis of ChatGPT, generative artificial intelligence, large language modeling, is apparently credited to this paper which these guys wrote, 8 young scientists. But what is the magic thing in this? Out of these 8, 2 are Indians. One is an Indian girl who studied in Pune. But this person I'm talking about, his name is Ashish Vaswani. And I read in the papers, I was shocked to know that he grew up in Oman. I don't know if he was from ISG, but most likely, certainly from one of the Indian schools. I think we should find out. And I have not spoken to him. I don't know him. I don't have his permission to use his name, so I hope he will not mind. But I thought it's a remarkable example. We should know about this. An Indian kid grows up in Oman, studies in hopefully Indian schools, again does his graduation from India, from BIT Mesra, I think, then moves on to the US, and the rest is history. And he's obviously still very young, but he has contributed to the next evolution in artificial intelligence. Now, what is the point I'm trying to make by these stories? Of course, we have such geniuses, as I said, in every field of life, and several examples that you can also quote. But the point really is, what makes the people of India tick? And more importantly, why is India important for the world? Because I believe people like these, they are people who make global contributions, and many such Indians are doing so. But what makes them ready and able to come up with such things, succeed in the global environment? What is this India thing that people talk about? Of course, one factor, and again, since I am in a school, I think clearly education is that one element. So any Indian parent, it doesn't matter whether from Tamil Nadu or from Himachal Pradesh or from Assam or from Gujarat, one thing that every Indian parent is common to every Indian parent is that they know that education is the only passport for success for their children, right? And this leads to the Indian tendency of excellence, because we are trained, we are ingrained, we are taught. We see each other competing. Competing for what? Not to make money, but to get educated. Whichever that field may be, but Indians learn from the very beginning that they have to excel, they have to get educated, and if they are educated, they will perform. That is the first attribute of, I thought, why Indians are so successful. But there is something else, and that is the real point that I wanted to make today. There is something else about the Indian mindset. There is something else in the Indian DNA which makes us succeed in global environments. The Indian mindset is geared towards inclusivity. The diverse environments in which we grow up, and more importantly, the intangible heritage that we carry in our minds, which has been given to us in our cultures. And again, I'm not talking about this culture or that culture or this region or that region, that language, this religion. I'm talking about the Indian heritage, right? There is something in the Indian heritage that has made us or makes Indians adaptable, resilient, and adjustable. That's why we are able to go to any setting, any society, and like all of you here, very naturally integrate without losing your Indian touch, by the way. Each one of the Indians sitting here carries the flame of India in their hearts. That never diminishes. It comes out in our festivals, in our marriages, right? But yet, when we perform in any given society, we integrate completely. This remarkable ability of the Indian mindset is something which is very important. And this is something which has been given to us. Nobody comes and tells you that you have to integrate. It is there in your mind. And for 5,000 years, our scriptures have talked about these things. When they say, Ekam Sat Vipra Buddha Vadanti, the truth is one, but the learned ones talk about it in different ways. This is the attribute that is being taught to you intangibly. Or, Akashat Patitam Toyam Yatha Gachati Sagaram. That every single drop that comes down from the sky ultimately all ends up in the same ocean through different streams. A powerful way of expressing the inclusivity of humankind. Or, Ek Varnam Yatha Dugdham Bhinna Varnasu Dheneshu Tathaiva Dharma Vaichatrem Tattva Mekam Param Smritam. The cow may be brown, the cow may be black, but they all give white milk. Look at the analogy here. Beautiful, right? Likewise, all religions, they might talk about, and this is a wider sense, all cultures, they might talk about things in different ways, they might look different, but they all ultimately talk about the same truth. And once again, this is not about a particular culture or a particular religion. It is that inclusivity of the mind that we all have. Indians are hardwired for inclusivity. Indians have there in their DNA, right, to be inclusive, to look at, like Prime Minister Modi ji very fondly says, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. It sounds like a cliche, but frankly it is there in every one of our minds, because we see the whole society, whole family, the whole earth, the whole world as one family. And that's a unique attribute of Indians. And that is why, and so aptly and so appropriately, the theme, as India now leads the global community into trying to build a consensus on major issues as part of our G20 presidency, so aptly, the theme of our presidency is one earth, one family, one future. It captures, in my view, the wider philosophy of the Indian mind. That India may or may not have been part of the problem, but India and Indians everywhere in the world will always be part of the solution. So on the 77th Independence Day of India, let us resolve, dear children, to take the country of our dreams even higher. But more importantly, let's also resolve that no matter where we are, in whatever capacity, we will always contribute for the global good. Because that, dear friends, is what India is all about. Happy Independence Day. Thank you very much. Namaskar.